Hello and welcome to PlayStation Racer. My name is Mitchell Morgan, and today, with the America's World Circuits finished, we're going to be heading over to begin the European races that we haven't yet completed. There are quite a few. So first of all, I'm just going to check and make sure that I am on the normal difficulty, which is the difficulty that we're using for all of these videos. And then we're going to head across to Circuit de Sainte-Croix because we've got two races that we've done but we haven't done very well. We got second in the Gr.1 and third, I think it was, in the Super Formula. Not looking forward to the Super Formula. I think that's going to be a pretty tough race. But just checking the settings for the McLaren, we're pretty much maxed out just to come under 940 pp. We're on the medium tyres for the strategy that I'll cover in a moment. And this is going to be the Gr.1 Prototype Series, the Circuit de Sainte-Croix. Number of laps 8, and we're in the McLaren. So I'm going to go for power level 6 on this particular run. We've got traction control on 1 just to balance the car a little bit, because I tended to find the back end would go around on me. I've been used to running slower cars with the Gr4 daily races just recently. Stepping back into the world races and stepping up to the McLaren was quite a shock. So that's the reason why I've gone for the traction control 1 for this particular race. The strategy here is to try and go the full distance on the single tank of fuel and these single medium tyres. So we're not planning on pitting at all. I'm going to hope a few of these guys around me do pit. But we're going to find that out a little bit later in the race. So at the moment we're in 15th place, just trying to pick our overtakes at the moment. We will be able to get through this traffic, so it's just a case of being careful around these corners, picking the overtakes either under braking or basically slipstreaming and then getting past people on the straights. There are 3-4 good long straights in this particular race. There's also some pretty technical sections, and I'm going to cover all of that in a moment. But you've got the straights where you can really do some very clean overtaking because this McLaren is pretty quick. But we are up against some quick cars, so it is a case of pushing on from the outset. So as we come up for halfway around this first lap, we've got 7.4 laps of fuel remaining, and that's eking up ever so slightly. So it looks like we could actually go with a slightly lower fuel map setting. But I felt comfortable with setting 6. I was able to get through the traffic. So that was the setting that I kept throughout this particular race. So as I said, just picking my overtakes. This is the longest stretch straight on this particular track, and a real good overtaking opportunity so long as you get it slowed down for this last corner. And there's a specific braking point for that corner that I found worked really well, and I will cover that in a moment. You've then got this really twisty section which I really struggled with throughout this race. I could never quite get this set of corners, the sequence of corners correct, and I think that if you were racing on hard with this particular strategy in this car, if you could nail those few corners, then I think that you could make this strategy work on the hard setting as well. I remind you that we're running on the normal setting, so you do get away with less than perfect driving. And those of you that have been following me will know that I am less than perfect. So that's the full lap, and we're already up into 6th place as we cross the line. So coming into this first corner, you want to be flat through here, hug the inside, and as soon as you come over the top and you see that 200-metre board, bury the brake pedal down into 2nd gear for a turn in, watching for the apex and drift right the way across to the alcove, and then up through the gears. This is one of those straights where you can get an overtake done, but if you do an overtake, try and make sure that you get across to the left hand side before that 200-metre board where you want to bury the brakes. Again, watching for the apex, drifting across to the alcove, and then through here I just used to drop down into 3rd gear just to give myself a little bit of a run through there as we step up through the gears. I'm now watching for that beginning of the curb on the left hand side, slow it down to third gear. Now I'm following the car in front through here at the moment, which is compromising me a little bit, but not too much. Just at the beginning of the curb there, again, bury the brake pedal down into third gear. I like third for a lot of these corners. This corner as well, third gear, no real braking reference for that one that I found. I just tended to feel that one. Then up through the gears, and you're watching for that dark patch that we just ran over just before the bridge. Brake down into third gear, and then up through the gears here. I tended to hug the right hand side through here, and then bury the brake pedal as you get down towards the bridge. Again, there's another dark area in the tarmac that I used for a brake reference. Across the bridge, and again another dark bit of tarmac, this time on the left hand side, so just there at the beginning of that tarmac. Between the beginning of that tarmac, the dark section, and the 200-meter board was where I was braking, really braking hard down into third or second for that. This one, that little patch of tarmac, I will call these out in a moment, I tended to brake for the full length of that tarmac and then feather the accelerator through that corner, and that would give you a nice run down this main straight, which is a real overtaking point. And as you can see, by midway through lap number 2, we are already up into first position. So burying the brake pedal at the beginning of the curb there, down into second gear for this tight corner, up through the gears now. Again, this is the section I really struggled with. I tended to find fourth gear was probably my best gear through here for the corners. Occasionally you will need to change up into fifth, and occasionally I'm changing down into third, but for most of these corners, fourth was pretty okay for me. And then this one with the large strip of black tarmac, there's another one there. This is the corner that really tightens. Used to come down into third for this one, and then keep on the right hand side, just a quick dab of brakes as you get to the beginning of that curve, down into third, and then it is a straight run to the line to run through again. So I covered most of the gears in there. This is a really busy lap. So for this particular corner, stay out to the right, sweep across to the left. As soon as you see the 200-meter board, and you want to be on the 200-meter board, bury the brake pedal down into second gear. Then we've got another little straight to the right hander, so stay over to the left if you can. And again here, I'm looking for that 200-meter board where I'm going to bury the brake pedal and get it slowed down into third gear. Now interestingly, I'm not actually getting 100% on the accelerator there, on the brake, which is why I went a little bit deep. Beginning of the right hand side curb for that one, and as you come around this corner, I'm watching for the curb on the left hand side. So as soon as you see that curb on the left hand side, run to the curb, slow it down and get it turned in. Now we've got to run to this double left hand. There's a right angle, so beginning of the curb, again I'm using down into third, up into fourth briefly, down into third to get the apex for this corner. And then we've got a little tricky wiggle section here. But we're looking for the, I missed it then. I'm looking for a darker piece of tarmac to brake for the bridge, but also using the bridge. You want to be braking just before the bridge. As we come down here, there's another dark patch right there. Get it slowed down into second gear, over the top, over the bridge. And then on the left-hand side, there's a long, dark piece of tarmac. You want to be braking just after that and just before the 200-meter board, so basically between the two. When I had got good brakes and was feeling confident, again I was braking on the 200-meter board. For here, I'm watching that dark bit of tarmac to brake on, then feather the accelerator through here so you don't run into those blue and white bollards, and just try and carry as much speed as we can down this straight. As you can see, we are just slightly quicker than the car in second place, but we are only 1 second ahead, so we're really needing to keep pushing on. For this one, you'll notice where the alcove goes diagonally across to the left and the grass section widens up. That's where I was braking for that one. Let it run through here, and then I'm not really going to talk through this too much because I know that my lines were wrong, my gears were wrong. I really didn't get this right, and I'd actually throw it off on the grass on that occasion. But for safety's sake, I tended to find that fourth gear was reasonably okay for most of these corners. That tended to keep me out of trouble. And I think with this particular race, trying to keep out of trouble is one of the main things. So again, as we come up to the final corner, just looking for the beginning of those curbs on the right hand side down into third gear, so you can negotiate that little section, and then we've got a straight run to the start finish line. Again, another overtaking opportunity if you are caught in traffic, but make sure that you do get it slowed down 200-meter board for this particular corner, because it is really tight, and very often you can be taking a visit to the barrier on the left hand side, and then you'll find other cars will just be sweeping up the right hand side of you. For now, we are managing the gap to Wilk behind. It's 0.567 roughly. Don't cut that corner too much. Although there is dirt in the grass on that corner, I tended to find, particularly in the McLaren, if I put a wheel in the dirt there, it did unsettle the car quite a lot, and I would find myself heading towards the barrier quite a bit. Just coming back to Wilk again, sort of 0.6, 0.7, 0.8 ahead at the moment, so really pushing quite hard just to maintain that gap. And I was minded that he was in one of the Gr.1 cars. I think it was the Peugeot possibly that he was in, maybe even Bishop, and I wasn't sure whether they would be pitting because they've got pretty big fuel tanks in those cars, and I wasn't aware of what tyres they were on. Talking of tyres, we do need to manage the tyres from the very beginning of this race, as in the fuel as well. You'll notice that I'm changing up at roughly halfway up the rev range, and that was to try and make sure that we had enough fuel to get us to the end of the race. And it does actually get really tight towards the end of the race, so stay tuned for that, and I'll probably talk a little bit more about fuel in a while. But just coming back to the tyres, you'll notice that the front tyres are wearing very nicely indeed, but we're approaching halfway worn on the rear tyres. So I tended to find when I was trying to run this on soft that the tyres really wouldn't go all of the way. Mediums, they gave me a much better run, although around about lap 5, lap 6, I did very much notice that the tyres were going away from me, and you'll notice that I have to start driving a lot more defensively and a lot more carefully just to manage the tyres. So I think if you're going to run this particular car and this strategy, then try and look after your tyres a little bit more than I have at the beginning of the race. So maybe not going quite so deep into corners, maybe not sliding it around quite so much. Get the acceleration down a little bit more smoothly than I have. In particular, that left-hand rear tyre will wear very, very quickly. But for the moment, we're doing reasonably okay. Wilk is right back with us. He tries to go around the outside. I did give him room. He is in the Peugeot. I did give him room on that corner. I did notice that he was there, but he did actually run out of talent and either threw it off the track or just got a wheel on the grass. But that did give us a 1.5 lead, and there was no real need, I don't think, for him to make that move because he was planning a pit stop anyway. So with that pit stop, that now puts us a nice 11-12 seconds ahead of Bishop in second, and we've now got that cushion to the car behind. But I was very minded at this point in the race that we're a little over halfway through, or just about halfway through the race, and I'm halfway through my tyres. So I was thinking that if I kept pushing in the way that I had been, that I was probably going to need to pit. Also, we've got 3.5 laps of fuel left and pretty much 3.5 laps to run. So fuel was becoming a little bit of an issue for me, even though I'm fuel saving still. And you'll notice that the rev range for most of these upshifts are now at the halfway level, and some of them are even barely registering on the rev counter before I'm changing up. Changing up early with the VGT car didn't really seem to hurt my performance at all, and at this point we are comfortably 15 seconds ahead of Bishop in second, although we are still pushing. Over the bridge and just continuing to run and try and maintain that gap. It'd be nice if we could get that up to maybe 30 seconds ahead of the second place, so if we did need to pit we would be okay, but I wasn't worrying as much now, because the fact that Wilk has pitted, I did wonder whether Bishop, Gallo, Coquelin were also going to need to pit. Maiazono was the car that I was concerned about. Maiazono is in 5th at the moment, and I happen to know that he was also in a McLaren, so I didn't know if he was running an aggressive strategy such as we have, and using this aggressive strategy, whether it would work out for the both of us, or whether the other GR1 cars were going to come through really strong at the end, in particular when our tyres were going and we were struggling for grip. Which is the case for me around about now. You'll notice that the tyres are really good on the front, got loads and loads of grip on the front of the car, but getting the power down and just getting through the corners quickly, I was noticing that the back was moving around quite a bit now, and you'll notice that whilst I'm trying to continue to keep this gap, there you go, struggle with that corner, whilst I was trying to keep this 20-second gap and try and get it up towards 30 seconds for a pit stop, I am also trying to manage everything. We're still on fuel map 6, a full lean with 3 laps of fuel to go and basically 3 laps to run, so pretty close on the fuel, continuing to work that fuel saving. Lifting earlier in some of the corners, you're going to notice shortly, so I did need to adjust my brake reference points ever so slightly, but we are still putting in purple times at times, just got on the marbles a little bit there. But if you look at the timings, I mean, we had a 3:06, then we had a 3:08, 3:10, 11 and 13, so you can see how I've been backing off by about a second or two over the last few laps as we try to save a little bit more fuel, and also try and save these tyres by not throwing it into corners and, you know, really sliding the car around. I'm trying to get it slowed down in a straight line under braking, to use the front tyres a little bit more than the rears, and making sure that you know, we're not braking whilst turning and getting that back end sliding around a little bit, and using more of the rears than we really needed to. So as we come down the hill, hugging the right hand side, that tended to be the line that I preferred, not necessarily the one that AI took. Drift across looking for that black patch or darker patch of tarmac, bury the brake pedal, 3rd gear now that we've got clean air, over the bridge, and now watching for the black patch on the left hand side, and then braking more towards the 200 meter board now that I'm in clean air, and I know that I'm okay with the front tyres and I can lean on them a little bit more. I was pushing my braking more towards the 200 meter mark. Just feathering the accelerator through there. Once you've gone past those blue and white bollards, you can really floor it down here, and then all the time watching for the orange part of the yarn cove, which tells you that the yarn cove is going to just back away from the track slightly. So as we come down here, you watch very carefully, that's where you want to look, and then brake there. So when you get those, there's a little orange bit at the beginning and the end of the blue and white bollards, you're looking for those, but then brake as the yarn cove just widens across, or it moves across to the left, which widens the grass patch. Again, I'm not going to talk too much through here. I know this was not my best part of this track, but at this stage we have got ourselves up to nearly 28 seconds in front of Bishop, so I've almost got my pit stop in the bag if I need it. And so at this stage it's like, can we just go to the end with these tyres and with this fuel? Are we going to need to do a splash and dash at the end? And as we come across the line to start our 7th and penultimate lap, we're crossing the line with basically 2.1 laps of fuel. So there really isn't a lot of fuel to play with, and we need to be minded to keep up changing early for fuel saving. You'll see there all the time that just about getting to halfway when we're changing up, and you'll find on some of the gear changes I'm actually changing a lot earlier than that. The rev counter is obviously jumping up to the top of the bar when I'm braking, using engine braking as well as mechanical braking, in other words the brake pedal. So we're using all of the resources that are available to us at the moment. Just coming round to this double left-hander. So basically we're watching for the beginning of the curbs there, not the 200-meter ball, because we're going slightly slower. Third gear, quick dash down here, quickly up in the fourth, then back down in the third. Watch for that apex, third gear, and then just getting to the right hand side, let it drift across. We're looking for that darker patch underneath the bridge, and then run down the hill. I absolutely adored this little section of the track. Just lifting a little bit, go through that corner, braking heavily onto where that little patch of tarmac is, and then across the bridge. And we're now up to nearly 25 seconds ahead of Wilk. It looks like Bishop has either been overtaken or Bishop has pitted. I have missed that. But Wilk is now behind us, and we know that he's not going to need to pit again. So watching the laps remaining, 1.6 at the moment, and we're about 1.5 laps to go. So you've really got to keep your mind very focused on the fuel saving if you're going to run this strategy. I've been on fuel map level 6 throughout the race. We set that to 6 immediately when we started, full lean, and that is working for us along with the the fuel saving that we're doing by upshifting early. So using all of the tools that are available to us. Tyres are looking pretty worn now. The fronts are still looking in really good condition. So remember to brake in a straight line, to use those front tyres, use the grip that is still there for us with those front tyres. But the rear tyres, where we're trying to get the power down all of the time, really struggling now. The right hand rear tyre is catching up with wear on the left hand side tyre. Initially when I was running this the first few times, I was pretty much running out of left hand rear tyre, so I'm a lot happier with the tyre wear on this occasion. So we just did a 3:11, so again pretty much settled on the lap times right now, and at 22 seconds ahead of Wilk, and committed now to getting this to the end of the lap with this fuel and tyres. It really was now just a case of being careful. We've got an added cushion where both Wilk and Bishop pit again. That was most unexpected, that those cars were going to need to pit. Wilk obviously went for the soft tyres, which he was obviously burning those out really quickly. So that's put Gallo into second place, or a little bit deep there. Maizono was my concern. I really didn't need to have too much of a concern about Maizono. They are still stuck pretty much in fourth place. But everything all looks pretty okay at this stage. Just a very small amount of grip left on the tyres, but I would imagine that by the end of the race we're pretty much going to be completely red on the rears. But we have still got drive off of the corners. We've still got plenty of grip through these corners using our chosen lines and our chosen gears. Now, I'll remind you to just pause and rewind, or maybe run the video slightly slower so that you can have a look and see what I'm doing. But I'm just an average driver at this game, and this is a very easy strategy in this McLaren VGT to get this race won. The next one's going to be a little bit more difficult. We are going to be staying with this track, but we're going to be running in the Super Formula car, and that is going to be very similar in performance to the other cars, so I'm really not looking forward to that one. This one was hard enough for me to do. This took a whole evening for me to crack this one, so I don't know quite how long it's going to take with the Super Formula. Maybe hit that bell button for notifications of when that video comes out and join me for that one. And on that subject, if you are new around here, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I was trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before my birthday in July. That's never going to happen. But if I could get to 500 before my birthday in July, that would be fantastic. So please hit that subscribe button to support me, and you'll also then be able to keep up with all of my videos. I'm planning on doing all of the World Circuit races, showing people how to get gold on the normal settings, and a lot of those settings and tips that I'm giving people are helping them to then go ahead and do these races on the hard settings as well. Obviously, my lines, my braking points, they're not quite the same as the A+ rated drivers, but I very often struggle to do what the A star or A+ rated drivers are doing. So hopefully this is going to help those of you like me that are not quite that good. So there we go. First place for the Gr.1 Prototype Series at the Circuit de Sainte-Croix. A nice comfortable 35 seconds ahead of Wilkins' second place. So I think that strategy would work quite nicely on the hard settings. Gold trophy, 210,000 credits, which is rather nice. We didn't get a clean race, but this is all about getting the gold trophy rather than keeping it clean. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that you found this video useful. If you did, please consider hitting the like button. As I said, if you're new around here, please consider subscribing to support me. And if you're a current subscriber, thank you ever so much for your continued support of my channel. It is very, very much appreciated. For now, I'm going to call it a day, and I'll see you on another video coming very soon. For now, take care. Bye-bye.